Detroit Lions coming off a dominant win over their division rival Green Bay Packers, and now they get to go to Houston to play on C.J. Stroud and the Texans, who are looking for a bounce-back win. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Week 10 matchup between the Detroit Lions and Houston Texans. But before we do that, we can't believe that we're able to say this, but we're actually 200 subscribers away from 5,000 total for the channel, thanks to all of our new members from this season. So if you haven't already, go ahead and help us try and reach that goal during this Week 10 prediction video series by hitting that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game and why. But Ryan, Detroit went into Green Bay in a sloppy game. By that, I mean it was just raining, it was wet, windy. It was a typical, I would say, November football game, maybe minus the snow. I think that's the only thing. But went in there, took care of business. I would say maybe it wasn't the prettiest of games offensively, but defensively they shut down a really good Jordan Love, Green Bay-led offense as well, held them to only 14 points. And on the flip side, too, they're going to go up against a Texas team that is starting to get through the injury bug, especially, too, when it comes to their receivers. Nico Collins has been on IR after he hurt his hamstring in Week 5 against the Bills. And Stephon Diggs tore his ACL a couple of weeks ago, and they definitely missed him, and they have missed him, especially too if you go look at their passing yard stats since Nico Collins has been out. And so I want to throw it over to you here. And what do you think the Texans have to do to somehow maybe kind of get around this Lions defense that's been playing really well, and there's also this Lions offense that might have, even be playing better?
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit on that they dominated the Green Bay Packers offense. They gave up over 400 yards of offense, and they just kind of got lucky, I think, early in the game. The Packers got, I think, a little over-aggressive in the red zone. They missed a field goal. Like, they kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball and made the mistakes that the Lions just kind of took advantage of. And so I want to push back. That offense definitely did give up some yards, and I think today – was probably the first time we've really seen the effects of like the Aiden Hutchinson injury on that Lions defense. And like that, I think that offense played well, but they didn't even have 300 yards of total offense. And they got a pick 6. They only put up 17 points. And so it was a good game and it was a good win, especially outdoors. They weren't as physically imposing as I think the score might have led them out to be.
Okay.
And so for me, I think all in all, like this is still a really good Lions team, and like spoiler, they're still my pick for this game. I just don't want to like sell them as this like uber dominant team coming off a really physical win against the Packers, because I don't really think that was quite the case. So
that's fair.
And then also, like, you look at Houston, this wide receiver room is really banged up. Everybody talks about Tampa being banged up in the injury room. They're missing their 2 top receivers from the beginning of the year, and Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. I believe Nico Collins is eligible to come back this week, but leave a comment down below and double-check me on that. Because if he is, I think that is a big X factor in this game, because this Houston offense really struggled to move the ball against this Jets defense. And I think the Jets might have found a little bit of a stride against Houston, but with that being said, they're so banged up on offense that this defense was out there a ton in that Thursday night game. So we'll just kind of have to see how this Houston offense shows up and what they can do.
Yeah, that was the thing to me. It just offensively felt like they couldn't go in like effectively pass the ball the way it was now. And to be fair, though, like the Jets do have a solid pass defense as well. They were able to run the ball for well over 180 yards against them, which is going to be big because Lions have one of the better run defenses in the league. But it definitely showed in their overall balance. It just like because Tank Dell was kind of their main target, but everybody else just wasn't really there or super effective against a good Jets defense. And so. And that's even one of the things too. Want to point out since the Buffalo game, the passing yards over the past 4 weeks: 176 against your Patriots in Week 6, 55 against Green Bay, 267 against Indianapolis, which is good, but that's not bragging because anybody can throw against Indianapolis. Then just 135 total, and this is team passing stats as well. So this does also include the sack subtraction. And so, but compare that though. Before, the lowest one was 204 in week 1. When it comes to those first 5 weeks, with a couple 300 passing yard games in between there. So I think they're looking forward to having Nico Collins back. I think the loss to Stephon Diggs, it will be kind of neutralized having Tank Dell there, because we can see what he can do. And we know what that offense can be, especially with what it was last year with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and how explosive that was until Tank Dell broke his leg. But I think just having Nico Collins, having the big physical X receiver on the outside, and that other security blanket option for C.J. Stroud, takes a lot of pressure off that entire offense. Do you think they're having a little issues as well with the offensive line being injured as well a little bit? But because Kenyon Green was struggling, but he actually got hurt, and then Kendrick Green came in that game and actually played much better at trying to slow down Quentin Williams. And so I have to still monitor that offensive line, but you want to see them kind of keep on improving. But that being said, though, I still feel just not having their top weapons here, going up against a Detroit team who maybe wasn't the most dominant win, as you said, but it was still a solid victory that they had, that they got on the road in a very tough environment, and they were able to kind of hold their own as I think the potential NFC champs, the future NFC champs, as we think that they can be as well. Mm-hmm. So offensive stat wise, I can understand what you're talking about. They definitely, especially in the second half after they got their big lead where they're up 24-3, or whatever it was, definitely try to control the clock. But it's I think it's going to be interesting once they have James Williams back now after his 2-game suspension, how much more maybe that offense can even expand when it comes to their explosiveness and their passing yard capabilities.
Yeah, and I think this team, especially, I believe is this at Detroit?
No, it's at Houston.
It's at Houston. Okay, well, actually, it doesn't matter. It's still the same point. It's a dome team. They're going to be playing in perfect conditions, and I think especially too when you look at the strength of this Houston defense, just to kind of get into predictions, I think they really like to blitz with those edge rushers and send Will Anderson, still send Danielle Hunter, and that's really where they get the majority of their pressure. The other 2 guys in the middle are really just there to stop the run, and so I think that's going to do one of 2 things. It's going to allow Detroit to really impose their will in that power running game, and 2, I think it's going to allow Jared Goff to really step up in the pocket and hit some of these receivers in some of those deep crossers or whatever they want to do. And so I think this defense is going to play a little bit into the hands of the Lions. I think this offense just hasn't quite looked the same since Nico Collins went down. Now Stephon Diggs went out, and I believe Nico Collins could potentially play, but I do think that the Lions are going to come out on top in this one. They're the hot team right now. They look really good. So
yeah, I do think it's going to be tough for the Lions to move against this Houston Texas defense. The Texas defense statistically is one of the better ones in the league. They are second overall in total yards allowed, passing yards allowed, 12th in rushing yards allowed. And so that being said, I'm still going to go with Detroit on this one. More, I think it's going to be tough for the Texans, especially even if Nico Collins comes back. Just might be tough for the Texans to kind of move the ball consistently down the field and be that explosive self that we saw them last year. We have seen them struggle with that a little bit this year, where it almost seems sometimes they stall out a little bit at that 24-point margin or whatnot. I think the only exception, there's a couple of times where they've gone over that, but I think it's going to be, especially if it's just Tank Dell as their one receiver, I think it's going to be tough for them to consistently move the ball down the field. And I think Detroit might get a lead here. And then it's going to be a lower scoring game, probably something similar, I think, to this Green Bay Packers score, like a 24-14 or maybe 24-17. So I think you're on the road.
Yeah, I was going to say 27-17 is my score prediction there. I just think Detroit's going to be the more physical team here and be too hard for Houston to overcome, especially while they're going through these inconsistencies on offense. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. We are both taking Detroit in this matchup. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think will come out ahead. Will it be the Detroit Lions? Will it be the Houston Texans? And other than that, we'll see you guys next time.